welcome back to beautiful La Cerise, or La Cerise if you're French, and well, hey, we don't have to get into that. We are back in this beautiful Euro city that I am creating in City Skylines 2. Looking back at the progress we've made, we've built up a lot on the hill with, Place du Jardin and Sur la Colline, but then we have this weird canal area. Well, okay, it's not weird, it's pretty nice actually, but the weird thing about it is that it's barely connected to the rest of the town above, so I was going to tackle that later. But I decided first I wanted to introduce some industry into the city because I noticed that the unemployment rate was really high. So I thought it would be good to give the people some jobs while I start developing more city. So I decided to put in some livestock farms. I would have put in some, carrot farms, fiber farms, and things like that, but I just had to settle for some livestock farms up here. And I frankly think they look pretty nice, They have the same look, and, people will still be able to work here just fine. I decided to place trees around each farm to give them a little bit more of a complete look. I'm definitely not the first person to do this, but whenever I see people on YouTube and City Skylines doing this, I always think it makes farms look so much more complete. And I decided at the end of the farm area would be a good little spot to just put a couple industrial buildings, just a couple small ones, just to, give the people a little bit to work with, a little processing place for the animal products that we get from those farms. Now it's pretty small, so we'll probably have to develop a more fleshed out industrial area in the future, but hey, sometimes you gotta kick the can down the road a little bit, huh? And so now was when I really wanted to connect these two parts of the city because I felt like it was all weirdly fragmented. So this was going to be a challenge though, because I made these canals, I had to flatten out the land by the water. And because of that, there's a huge, steep gradient in land between the canal district and the hill district, I guess if you want to call it that. And so my first challenge was, of course, to expand from the canal district because I was getting some weird water issues. But then after that, I had to conquer this tremendous hill, which you could see I was having a lot of difficulty with. And I didn't really want many retaining walls. I do think they look good sometimes, but also I think it's easy to overdo them. And so I tried to kind of snake some roads around, but wasn't very happy a lot of the times with it. This is a very challenging part of the build. I had a lot of difficulty here. You can probably tell. With all things, sometimes you just gotta keep trying and it'll look better. I'm not sure that ended up being the case here, but it was worth a shot. And I think it was a noble cause. We definitely need to connect these parts of the city at some point. And nothing is permanent in this game. If I don't like it, I can always change it. So I feel content knowing that. So I started drawing out some more roads, kind of snaking down the hill. In terms of like a European city standpoint, I was sort of kind of thinking about this in terms of like a little Italian town. How like a lot of them are like on hillsides and they have to develop in these weird snaking patterns. So I was kind of thinking about something like that. And so that is, I guess, sort of the style I was going for. I quickly learned that the hack to building on those canal roads was simply to just draw out a little bit of land in the water, and then the, building on water glitch would completely go away. So that was a little hack I learned, so that was fun. Oh, and then a tornado quickly blew through the city, and I had no idea. And it happened so quickly that the house is actually just rebuilt before I even really noticed it. So, I guess that will happen. At this point, I was looking at what I'd built and was kind of not that happy with it because okay. The town on the hill is very like loosey-goosey road layout, kind of old town European, I guess. Whereas the canal district is very rectilinear and very hyper planned out. And so I was having a difficult time both having a gradient there, that's my favorite word today, between the rectilinear canal district and the kind of spaghetti roads of the town on the hill. And on top of that, getting up the hill, it was a big challenge to get kind of both of those in that district, in this district that I'm building right now. And so I wasn't entirely happy with it when I finished it. And so I may come back later to make some adjustments, but I decided to just commit to it for now and start zoning. Now, the biggest thing I was looking forward to was zoning out these mixed-use buildings. God, they're my favorite. I talked about it last episode, and I'll maybe talk about it every episode from now on. But I think I think they just make a city look so good, especially if it's gonna be like a European style. It's just like perfect. And then before I continued zoning, I kind of was thinking about where I could put a bit more industry because I saw that there was still a bit of demand for it, even though I zoned a bunch of farms and industry back there. Well, I guess not really that much, but a little bit. So I drew out a highway down to this little corner over here. And I specifically put in this corner because I saw the wind was going in this direction. And so I did not want a bunch of air pollution affecting my citizens. That would not be happening. And so I thought this would be a great area to both put some industry and also some landfill waste management, which I'd neglected previously. And I kind of wanted to keep neglecting, but at a certain point, you just got to do it. At a certain point, you just got to do it. I also decided to build some industry and, grossness in this area because there is some massive ore deposits just beyond the hill. So I will eventually be expanding into that. But for now, I decided to just put a couple industrial buildings here and call it a day for now. In the future, I will definitely put more attention into this industrial region. I decided to put down a telecom tower because I saw that people were complaining about slow internet speeds, which, is a valid complaint, and I wanted to give the people the best. So I put one in this little hilly area. I started trying to connect these two areas with some more zoning, and so I started zoning more and more towards the hill and down it, and so I decided to put down some single-family homes because I figured on the hills it would make a bit more sense to have some smaller residences. I decided in the super steep part of the hill, I would just put a little kind of nature reserve / park / hiking area because, well, A, it was way too steep to develop in, and B, I think it's just a good backup when you don't know what to do with an area. Just plop a bunch of trees, put some hiking trails, and boom, you've got yourself a nice city park. And so that is exactly what I did. I plopped down some alders, some spruce, some pines, even some bushes, just to round things out. I expanded the industrial area just a little bit because I saw that demand meter keep going up, and I do not want a city of unemployed people. But also, well, unemployment's fine, of course, but I don't want people to not afford their homes. That would suck. I revisited Place du Jardin and I saw all these commercial areas and decided it's time. Because I always wanted to put some mixed-use buildings there, so I rezoned those for mixed-use buildings. And as you can see, with the color grading shift to a very blue hue, we had entered winter. And so I was thankful that I'd had the foresight to get the road maintenance because we would soon have our first snow, which is very exciting. It was at this point I was kind of all over the place, trying to decide where I wanted to go next, but then I settled on continuing my zoning of the kind of canal hill transition zone. I don't have any ideas yet of what I want to call this part of the town, but I am open to suggestions. If anyone wants to leave a comment about what they think this part of town should be called, or if you have any ideas on how I can rearrange the roads to make it look a bit better, I am open to that too, because I'm not perfect. Well, I'm nowhere near perfect, and I also don't think I'm not the most happy with this layout. So I am open to suggestions if changes should be made. As I continued zoning houses, I tried to make sure the hills were not too crazy. There was this one particular part that was driving me a little bit insane, but I got through it. While I'm asking you guys to comment about what you think I should do with the city, this may be the point where I ask, hey, like the video if you like it. I know everyone always asks for that, like, hey, like the video, but it is really, I'm realizing now it is really helpful to see when you're doing things right versus when you're doing things that I guess aren't entertaining or anything like that. So yeah, let me know. I kept zoning here and there, putting down more commercial, more residential houses. And I decided that this new area really needed a park. So I put this little town square, this little town plaza right in the middle, and I thought it was a great little place. I expanded this canal district a little bit further in the, I guess you can call this the westward direction. Well, it depends on how you look at it. Maybe northwest. Thankfully, the hill wasn't as bad here, so I was able to preserve a bit of the, grid-like nature of the canal district, which was nice, and I wanted to preserve a little bit of that. I decided that another elementary school was in order because, well, for the kids down in the canal district to have to climb all the way up the hill to get to elementary school, I thought was a bit preposterous. Sure, we had taxis, but I don't even know if I had put down taxi stands yet in that part of town, and we haven't had buses yet, so in a future episode, of course, that will happen. But in this nascent form of La Cerise, it would be better to just give those kids down there a better school. And by that, I mean a closer school. I decided to fix this little alleyway by the high school because it had a really steep part right next to the roundabout, so I thought I'd fix that up. Then I also noticed I couldn't zone on this one part of the street where it branches off, and I think that was because it was like a very small retaining wall, so I replaced that and was finally able to zone some mixed use buildings on that. And the thing that sucked was that my demand for a lot of the housing that I wanted to build was astonishingly low, but I decided I would just zone it anyways and then let it fill out over time, which sometimes you just have to do in this game. I also decided to move the cemetery because I thought the part of town that I was in just kind of didn't really make sense. As in, I really wanted to expand out there, but I kind of felt blocked off by the cemetery. So I decided to put it a little bit further down, closer to Place du Jardin, because, well, of course, it does mean Garden Square. So what better place to put it than there? And I plopped a couple trees down and put a path, and I felt like it looked pretty nice. It was at this point I finally unlocked Boom Town, which was very exciting. It was at this point I decided that the people living in the hills needed some paths, damn it. They needed a bit of pedestrian access between each block, so I put down some paths that were sort of respective of the terrain. I tried to make them not too steep, you know. If someone were to bike down this hill, I don't want them to crash and die. Granted, there aren't bikes in this game, which sucks. And I love bikes, but, you know, for now, I guess we don't have to worry about it. As the paths got closer to the canals, I made them more boxy and rectilinear, which I keep saying, to kind of reflect the street patterns and I guess also the canals themselves. There was a lot of places where I tried to draw out paths to get in little gaps of zoning, which is one of the things I find pretty frustrating in this game, as that, like, you can't really zone like, look at this. There's so many places where, like, you think you should be able to put a house there or something like that, but the zoning is just not quite right, and then you put a path down to, like, fix the zoning, but then it still doesn't work out. So that's kind of frustrating, but... And I kind of wish there was some way to manually control it. Like, especially here. Like, I was trying to put this path down behind this house, but then it would just completely ruin it for some reason. So, you know, maybe that'll... I don't know if that can be fixed very easily, but that would be nice. You can tell by my shiftiness that I wasn't entirely happy with the hilly area that I'd built up. I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to continue it, so I just moved away from it, and I will definitely come back and detail it. But I decided to hold back on detailing for now because a lot of the houses hadn't developed yet because the demand wasn't quite there for all the buildings that I wanted, so I decided to wait for that before continuing with my paths and trees and things like that. But it will be done. I know the area looks pretty bare right now. But Rome wasn't built in a day. And certainly not La Cerise. Alright, well, we are coming to around the end of the progress I've made today, so I'd like to end things off with some cinematics. Enjoy.